the Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephus and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. Hello and welcome once again. Here we go with episode 57 of the Bitchspot Report podcast. This week we were supposed to have a special guest on, but we're not quite sure if she's going to show up, so we're just going to kind of go on with the show, and I guess you'll find out later on if she's going to be on.
Yeah. I mean, I thought my technical difficulties were bad.
Your technical difficulties are bad.
Yeah. If only I was home. If I wasn't trying to do this out of a hotel room. I mean, I think I'd be a whole lot better shape, I think. But, jury rigging everything and everything that goes wrong. Oh, let's try this. Grab a screwdriver and, trying to record yesterday and, I realized that my battery wasn't charging on my laptop. And it's a good thing I was watching because it would have shut down in the middle of the show and then all hell would have broke loose. So I'm sitting there scrambling, trying to find an outlet, and they've buried all the outlets behind furniture. And so today I just moved the prongs on the plug, and everything's working. I'll be checking it. Yeah, everything's still working good. So, I'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Hopefully nothing else goes wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna have to change the name of the podcast to the Technical Difficulty Show or something.
There we go.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and move on like we were just doing a regular show, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, over the past week, I've had a couple people tell me that I really got it all wrong on libertarianism when we talked about it last time. That we misrepresented libertarianism and that we should be ashamed of ourselves. Now, I don't think I should have to repeat this over and over and over again because we keep covering it, but if we're talking about something and it doesn't apply to you, your beliefs, your positions, whatever, we're not talking about you. You need to stop acting like anytime anybody mentions the label that you've adopted for yourself, that if somebody says something against that label, that they're going after you personally and it's a personal attack or something. I've had a number of different people this week who have sent me messages on Twitter and who've sent me messages in various places who said, oh, you just got it all wrong. And when I go back and I ask them, what did we get wrong or how do you know that it's wrong? They won't talk to me anymore. Seriously, I mean, the whole world does not revolve around your label. If I freaked out every time somebody talked about the neocons and called them conservative, I'd be in a permanently insulted state. But I'm not. I don't get these people. What is wrong?
I really wish I could understand it. I've got a comment from my other podcast, and I'm not sure. Actually, I'm not so sure if it's not just some spam message because it's from a band in Pennsylvania somewhere. They attached a website that, it's like, I'm wondering if this is not some kind of spam thing or somebody hiding their identity, but it's like, he basically calls me a dick, an arrogant dick. I'm a geek. I must have been beat up in high school by jocks. I disagree with your logic and yeah, you're just a geek. Okay. It's like, okay, way I want to answer it is, first of all, I'm not going to acknowledge the person's name. I'm just going to talk about the message. And it's like, if I have a flaw with my logic, tell me, what am I getting wrong? And this is to anybody listening. What did I get wrong? What did you get wrong? What did the show get wrong about libertarianism? Because as far as libertarian goes, I think we're spot on. I mean, I am no fan of libertarianism. There's definitely problems, and there's problems across the board. I'm not going to single out libertarianism as being a problem because the Republicans, the Democrats, the Greens, the Communists, the whatever parties they don't get it. It's this touchy-feely, let's, make our people happy type of thing. And personally, I really don't agree with, what is been bandied about as libertarian. But I'm not attacking the person, a person who believes that. I mean, I would bet these people only believes in certain parts of the libertarian. They probably don't even know what a libertarian is in the first place. They just call themselves that because, they're for small government. I mean, we're all for small government. I mean, but that doesn't make me a libertarian. It's sensibilities, that's being sensible. It's being rational. But then, to call someone out and accusing somebody of misrepresenting or not getting the facts right without saying, well, what facts did we get wrong? I mean, it's like, fuck you. I have no issue where I got it wrong. What did I get wrong? Tell me. Where's my mistakes? Where am I making the mistakes? Where I'm erring at? Tell me. I will be more than happy to explain my position a little bit more clearer. Maybe, whatever it takes. But, just saying that you're an idiot, I don't agree with your logic. Well, what's wrong with my logic? Where's the problem? I'm sure this was a show about, what did I just do? The, 9/11. And I'm convinced that it was the 19 Saudi nationals who hijacked a bunch of planes and flew them into buildings. There's nothing more sinister about it. And then I did go into how they got there. I believe that the West has been, pretty heavy-handed, and I'm not talking about just the United States, but Europe has been heavy-handed in these regions in the Middle East, Africa, Southeast Asia. They've taken this heavy hand, pretty much fucked these people over. So yes, that is the reason why these people are pissed off. That's why they're throwing, the airplanes into buildings, and they're strapping on bombs and walking into discotheques and whatever.
I don't think they're throwing planes into buildings.
Well, flying, throwing, whatever.
Well, no, I mean, if it was the Incredible Hulk, okay, yeah, you can throw a plane into a building, but otherwise.
Right.
Muslim smash!
Right. But it's still, that's my take, and that's my logic, and if you have a problem with it, tell me where the fault is, That's all I ask for. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm sure that's what you're asking too. Show me where the problem is. If you don't want to do it, then go sulk in your little corner. I don't care. You can play baby all you want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, while we're on this topic, I ran into somebody else on Google Plus who jumped on my back because, our position about there ought to be some kind of a federal curriculum for education. And he got on my back. He said, no, the government should have absolutely nothing to do with education, and it should all be states and all this other stuff. And he says, you're just wrong. So I said, okay, fine. Justify your position. Tell me what's wrong with what I said. Tell me what I've said that's actually wrong that you can back up as being correct on your side. And he comes back and he says that clearly anybody who believes what I did, he wouldn't bother to discuss the topic with because you're just absolutely wrong. He's running around just going, you're wrong because you're wrong because you're wrong. And he won't talk about what you're wrong about because he's so clearly and obviously right.
Yeah.
And it's like, you watch these people, they're just like the religious. You've got the religious who just ignore science because clearly their faith is perfect. What the fuck is wrong with these people?
Yeah, actually, speaking on that front, a buddy of mine who does a podcast, has an atheist podcast, the C-Web Sunday School. He's part of the Dumbass Media Network. Cheap plug there. He posed a question. He got theists and atheists, and asked them the question, what would change your mind? Whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God. What would change your mind? And they got this one there. He has one guy on there and he says, he's going, there's nothing that'll change my mind. And he was going on about, when he learned about God and all this stuff, he was an atheist turned Christian. And the thing he likes about being a Christian is that he can win every argument against an atheist. That's his position. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is that the reason why these people hang on? Because they can win an argument even though they don't? It's like, it's just this mentality that I'm right and you're wrong. Fuck you, type of thing,
Yeah.
I do not understand. I don't know about these people. I mean, I've been around, I'm 52 years old. Probably I'll be 53 this year. I've seen a lot of things, and I've seen change and all this kind of stuff. I kind of think of things in shades of gray, not necessarily black and white, either God is real or God isn't real, though if I were to answer that question, I want to see God. I want him to appear, we shake hands, let's go visit my friend Cephus. That would change my mind. He has to physically present himself, say, hey, I'm God, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? I got some people I want you to meet. Let's meet some people. I'll change my mind in a second. But until that happens, and I know it won't happen, I'm going to be an atheist. That's me. And no matter what argument any theist makes, he's not going to change my mind because, I believe in this real world, this reality world we live in. I'm not doing this because I can win the argument. I'm here because I feel like I'm right and I have a obligation to give my opinion. So, I mean, I'm not out to be right all the time. I'm just out here to say, here, these are the facts, people. Look it up yourself and make your own decisions. If I can't convince you, well, I tried, and I'm happy with that, but these people are like, like hearing that guy saying, because I can always win an argument against an atheist. And I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, I bet you he doesn't even try to argue against an atheist. He just says, I'm right, you're wrong, that's it.
Right.
That's not an argument, dude. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, listening to his whole spiel, it's just the classic arguments that they all make, that I know that God exists. I've got a book that proves it. Anything you say, I can find an antithesis in the Bible. And to me, it's like, well, that's not good enough. It's like you've got a book that was written how many years ago? By who? And it's been changed, and there's hundreds of versions of that book. What's the real, are you really, whatever, I can go down those little paths. But if you're just so convinced that your Bible's, is correct and you're correct, and anytime you argue with a theist or an atheist, you will always win. That's closed-mindedness in a nutshell, not open-mindedness.
I think there's something fundamentally wrong in their heads, to be really honest.
Yeah.
I was having another debate with a guy, and he's saying that, he was arguing for the incarnation of Jesus. And so I'm asking him where his evidence is. And he keeps going, you have the evidence. You know this is true. You're just arguing to argue. You already know that everything I say is right. And I'm going, no, you haven't actually backed any of it up. Oh yeah, I have. There's all that evidence that I gave you, that I actually didn't give you any. But you actually already know that I'm right, and you're just lying because you're an asshole. It's like, what the fuck is wrong? I was coming up with this idea for a drinking game for the podcast, and you take a drink every time I say, what's wrong with you people? You people would all be drunk by the end of every episode, because I don't get these people. I don't get these people who are just so delusional and fucked up in their heads, and they think that everything that they believe is just so perfect and wonderful that they don't have to back it up. What's wrong?
I don't know. I honestly wish I knew, because, Ken Ham pulled that kind of stuff off. All of them do, in one way or another. I mean, what was kind of nice about C-Web's show was that, there were some that were actually honest. This is what it's going to take for me to, not to believe in God. And, there was the atheist who says this is what it's going to take for me to believe in God. More power to him, but that one guy who's just like, I'm right and you're wrong. I've got a book to prove it. It's like, that's not how it works in the world. I mean, if anything, that's probably the real problem. These are the people we're not going to get to. They've already set, and they're decided. It's going to be the ones that are like, it's actually kind of like me with atheism, because I don't like to associate myself too much, because there are those hardcore guys, there's the guy, this guy, and I forget his name. He's in Chicago, and it's almost like he makes us all look bad. It's those that really make us, look like he rubs me wrong way. That's just, every time I see him on TV, and that could be the TV manipulating things, but this guy really is pretty much, I would say, a jerk. He has gone after city after city. He went after Skokie because of the city seal has a Star of David on it. He wants that taken out. He's gone after Cook County. I think there were some religious symbols in its symbol. But, he wasn't wrong in what he was doing, but it was just that when he would go on TV, and he would work the TV. He did. This was tried on nightly news. It wasn't quietly done through the courts. It was, the nightly news had this guy for like almost a week, fighting Skokie over that symbol. And to me, that's too much. Do what you have to do, but you don't have to drag it through the media, because it ended up for Sunday morning political shows were talking about it. I think even 60 Minutes, picked up his story. It's do what you got to do. No need to drag everybody and get everybody all hot and bothered, because I think you lose more people than you gain. And then now you've got more enemies that you got to deal with after something like that, versus quietly getting it through the courts, because the courts do ultimately, they seem to favor, the separation. So they will probably he probably could have gone through and had that done and not create as much of a ruckus. But he took the other route and tried to make a statement. Personally, I don't think he made the right statement. He made a bad statement. Because I've seen other ones come up and they made the right statements when it does happen in the Chicago area. They just say, hey, we want these symbols, these are religious symbols. We want them gone. That's all we want. And that's it. And that's all you hear about it. Maybe getting back on point here a little bit, being set, being so hardcore about your religion, that hardcore does not play well and it makes you look ignorant.
I don't have a problem with being hardcore.
Right.
As long as you've come to your hardcore beliefs based on evidence, based on logic, based on reason, and you can actually defend your beliefs against others who question them. It's the people who can't defend anything, who just say, I'm right because I'm right because I'm right. Those are the people that you have to worry about. The fanatics are the ones you have to worry about, not the people who have actually gone through and tested all of their beliefs and all their positions and said, yes, I actually have a good reason to accept what I accept, and I'm willing to take on any comers to argue about it. And that's one of the things about this show, is I get a lot of negative comments. Oh no, you're so negative. Oh no, you're so violent. Oh no, you got libertarians wrong and you got liberals wrong and all this other stuff, but nobody's willing to put their beliefs where their mouth is and come on the show and debate us. Nobody's willing. The second you suggest it, pooh, they're gone in the wind. Right. They don't want to talk about it because they can't really defend their beliefs. They just make claims, and then as soon as anybody tells them it's time to put up, they're gone. Right. It's really kind of disturbing in a way.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with speaking up. I think, but you should be able to stand behind your statements. And if you can't stand behind those statements, either learn, figure out, well, why do I believe this? I mean, why do I really believe this? Because you always hear, I got a Bible that says that this is true. It's like, go beyond that. Really get into what you really believe in. I mean, I've done that, and I do that on occasion. It's like something might trigger something and says, well, maybe I should rethink this. And I go, well, no, I'm still good. I'm not afraid to rethink periodically my position on anything, on my religious beliefs, on my political beliefs, what have you. I mean, I think that's the sensible and rational way of thinking. It's not this, I'm right and you're wrong. I have a God that's real and I believe it, and you should too, for no reason whatsoever. And then for me, that's a turn off. I mean, it's going to turn me off. It's like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. Explain to me why there's a God. Explain to me why you believe this is true. Don't sit there and just say that I've got a Bible that says that God exists and Jesus died and rose from the grave. It's like, I don't need anything more than that.
Yeah, but you have to remember that these people, they didn't come to their beliefs rationally. They came to their beliefs emotionally. It feels good to believe what they believe. And all they care about is continuing to feel good. Therefore, there's absolutely nothing that you can say that is going to get them to change their mind, because they just want that, that emotional feel-good response all the time. I think we've kind of been like we've off on a tangent for a while.
Yeah.
As usual. But we should do some news.
Yes, let's get to the news.
And now the news.
Saudi Arabia has released a list of 50 names, including Benjamin, Maya, and Linda, that parents are forbidden from calling their children. The names have been labeled as blasphemous, non-Arabic, or non-Islamic, or in confliction with the kingdom's culture or religion. The ban has been justified by the ministry because some of them are deemed as foreign or inappropriate. Other sets of forbidden names include those with royal meanings, such as Highness, King, and Queen. However, certain names on the list do not fall into any of these categories, leaving their reason for banning them unknown. Names such as Benjamin are not found to be distinctly offensive to Muslims.
Hi all, Future Steph here. It was right around here where our special guest, Brandi Mattison from the Irreverent Skeptics, showed up. So don't be surprised when she actually says something. Saudi Arabia has issued a list of 50 names that it forbids parents within the country from naming their children. This list includes Linda, Lauren, Sandy, and others. It justifies this new list of forbidden names based on offending religious sensibilities, those that are traditionally related to royalty, and those that are non-Arabic and non-Muslim in origin. I mean, seriously, with all the problems that these people have in these countries, don't you think they have something better to do with their time than control what you name your kids?
Yes.
I wish they did.
The key is, what is the corrective action? I think that was a good question. What are they going to do to you if you have baby Linda, who is now 2 years old?
They're going to take you out, bury you up to your neck in the sand, and stone you.
I was going to say, if stoning is the punishment, wait, I'm thinking of something else. That's not right.
No, there's nothing right about what they do over there. You know, it's every time I think the Muslims have done the most stupid thing they can possibly do, they come back and do something even more stupid. You know, they control cartoons and they want to stone Salman Rushdie and they want to control your internet. They don't want you drawing pictures of Muhammad. What the hell is wrong with these people? And yes, take a drink. Yeah, we've come up with the official, podcast drinking game. Every time I say what's wrong with you, somebody has to take a drink. So everybody's going to be wasted by the end.
I was going to say, I do not recommend that. I do not recommend that at all. Like, I have listened to the show before, so, yeah, I do not recommend that.
But what is wrong with these people and how do we fix them?
We need an oil alternative. Once we have that, we can just kind of forget they exist, because this is not a country that would matter if it weren't for oil.
Well, that's true, but the entire Middle East wouldn't matter if it wasn't for oil. But I don't want to just ignore them and forget them and pretend they're not there. I want them back. I want to actually fix them. I want them to become rational.
I agree. I'm not sure how one does that. Do they need a reformation? I remember someone smarter than me saying that's what happened to the Christians, and at least that was an adjustment to what had been going on before the Reformation.
Well, what happened with the Christians was Christianity had to deal with secular society, and secular society basically castrated Christianity. Said, you ain't doing that no more. And over the years, Christianity became very tame, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
There just aren't any secular societies in the Middle East. That's the problem. Even the ones like Turkey that used to be very secular, they're not anymore. So they've got nothing to moderate their behavior.
Right, and there's not the separation, even though Turkey was officially, secular. They're officially Islamic, secular, or whatever. It's like, but there's no guarantee of separation of church and state, so that was more of a privileged status that could be taken away at any time or changed at any time.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that we have much of a separation here now, but at least in theory, it's supposed to be there.
Well, we do when we push it. And unfortunately, you got the religious out there trying to get rid of it all the time, but like we were talking about earlier, anytime it goes to court, where the religious are pushing their way into the government, the courts always side with separation of church and state.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes us doing the work over and over and over and over. You know, I wish we could just do it once and then it would be, hey, this is case law. We never have to do it again.
Yeah, it's never resolved permanently. We always have to remain vigilant. It's true.
Because they don't give a damn if they've been found wrong. They just do it again.
Mm-hmm. Creation science is a good example of that. Intelligent design. Like, it just keeps coming up over and over and over, and they've been smacked down officially now. I don't know how many times.
They don't care. And all the money that funds this kind of crap is coming out of the churches where it's tax exempt anyway. They don't care. It's not their money.
I got mad about that, filling out my taxes. It asked me if I had a tax exempt parsonage or any other such thing. I just thought, I can't meditate on this. I'm gonna blow up.
That should be going away because they just got rid of the parsonage exemption.
Good.
So
it was
in the
on
next
this
couple years it should appear, or it should go away in the next couple years.
Good.
The stuff for this year was printed out last year sometime, so it was before the court ruling.
Yeah, I did my H&R Block stuff online. It was super quick, but I did catch that much. Like, do I have this thing? No, I do not have this thing. I'm not a priestess in atheism. No.
I would be going, hey, fine, if you give me some money off my taxes, I'll have that thing. You know, I'm not going to use it for anything religious, but yeah, I have that thing. Why not?
I'm trying to think who. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, I was just saying you could get ordained. You could do that online now, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I had a friend who did that for someone else's wedding, so he could officiate someone else's wedding. But was it Annie Laurie Gaylor, whatever her organization is? Didn't she sue because she'd been given the religious exemption or something, a religious designation, and she sued to have it removed? I think that was Freedom from Religion Foundation, or one of those was given some kind of church status, and it was a break, and it was a benefit to her, but she sued to have it removed. Good.
Yeah, well, we need to sue to have it removed from everybody. Mm-hmm. So that it's no longer a thing, but that's not going to happen.
Actually, I think that may eventually happen because, it's such a mess. And it's something that people, like you were saying, are being vigilant about, are suing on behalf of,
Yeah, but I don't think you're ever going to get the IRS to just universally say, okay, all these religious exemptions and all this other stuff is just going to go away. Because you're a church, you are no longer going to automatically get this exemption, or you're no longer going to have a tax exempt status. You're actually going to have to prove that you're a, 501c3 charity or something. You only get your money off on charitable actions or whatever.
Sure.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Maybe there'll be some transparency though. I would even be happy with that. If they said, fine, you do what you do, but we get to see your books. Like United Way shows their books. I want everybody, all the churches, everybody to show their books.
Churches they scream every time you even suggest it.
But I would be fine with that. Fine, you have your exemption, but I want you to have to post publicly what your costs are and everything like that.
Yeah, at which point in time they wouldn't have their exemption anymore because they're all working under the table. They're not actually charitable organizations. So I agree with you. It's just, I don't see it's going to happen in this country anytime soon.
Mike, you're awful quiet. Big shock.
Yeah.
Big shock.
Oh, I was talking before, and then you barrel in here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's just, what was I saying before? Okay. This whole idea, I would really be just happy having Saudi Arabia ridicule, have the world say, what the fuck are you doing, people? Banning these names. I know that I've talked about, it happened in Austria with the Jews, late 1800s. Austria told all the Jews to change their last names. They had to make them sound Jewish. That's actually where we get names like Goldstein, Silverstein, those names. And that was all an edict by the Austrian government to say that so they can identify the Jews. It was just, you gotta change your last names. And, it's so ridiculous, just, all the problems it creates. I don't know if there's what would happen to, trying to get these these band names changed so that, because I'm assuming that it carries in Saudi Arabia, it's going to carry some weight of law. If you got this name, you can't get a job or you can't get a subsidy or whatever they do over there. I don't know how that works.
Well, I'm sure they would just refuse to register the names at all. Yeah. The parent tries to say on the birth certificate, this is my child's name, and they'll say, nope, we will not accept that name. Pick another one.
Right.
I'm not sure what's going to happen if they are going to go and retroactively employ this and just say, hey, all those 30-year-old people who have these names, you have to change your name now.
They have all kinds of weird rules. I don't even know if people realize. Like, I had an email friend a long time ago in Saudi Arabia, and I was joking. I told him, I'll come visit you. And he said, well, when you come, you have to surrender your passport, and you have to list me as officially your sponsor. Like, I have to have a guy who's officially, in charge of me or responsible for my behavior while I'm there, and also needs to be holding my passport. That's terrifying, the idea that I would go somewhere as an American woman and have to surrender my passport. Like, that's a rule.
Yeah.
That is insane. I said,
I can't imagine why anybody'd want to go to Saudi Arabia anyway.
Well, I thought I'd like to see the world, but I said, I'm not going anywhere. I have to surrender my passport. If you don't want to give it back, I can't leave the country. Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. That's what happens to those ladies that go to Brunei. The Sultan of Brunei, imports these Playboy Playmate models, and the next thing you know, they surrender their passport and they can't leave.
That's actually kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. If you Google that, yeah. I remember in the 90s was when I was in high school, there were beautiful women that had been Miss America and whatnot that couldn't leave Brunei for extended periods of time. Yeah, well, think about it. Without a passport, you can do nothing.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm sure they've got to do things to earn their passport back.
I know. It sounded like a beginning of a porn or something, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now that you've got all kinds of Muslims who are living outside of Saudi Arabia and outside the Middle East, and they've lived in the U.S. or Canada or any place in the real first world, maybe they've named their kids these things. What are they going to do if they ever want to go back to the Middle East? I got to change my kid's name?
Probably.
Or what? These names they're markers of heresy or something. I don't know. Yeah,
that's the thing. It might just be a status thing. It might just be you go about with those names and everybody looks down on you as infidel, perhaps.
Yeah, but with what they do with infidels over there, I don't think I'd want to risk that.
I had a friend from the UAE tell me that you have 3 days to change your mind. If you leave Islam, you have 3 days to change your mind. And I said, or what? And she just gave me the look like, or what? What do you think? I was like, oh my God, that's terrifying.
Or they chop your head off.
Yeah. She's like, I've never known anyone. Yeah, she was in her 20s and never known anyone to do it. She's like, so I don't know or what, but it's not going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And that's UAE. That's a place that has a higher standard of living than the U.S. You know.
Well, they've got a lot of money and they don't have a lot of people, so.
And big foreign workforce.
So, I don't know. Okay, we have anything to hit on that, or are we gonna move on?
Move on.
Move on.
Alright, Mike, move on to you.
Shows up at a vigil where neighbors gathered to remember 2 small children allegedly killed at the hands of their own mother. That relative holding family photos.
My heart goes out to the children. My heart goes out to the family. My heart even goes out to the mother.
The vigil organized and attended by those who do not know the family. They wanted to do something to remember that 1-year-old boy and 2-year-old girl who were stabbed to death here Friday morning during a tragic and bloody religious ritual.
How can you hurt a child? To me, to hurt a child, you are a coward.
The children's mother, 28-year-old Zakia Avery, charged with killing her toddlers and trying to kill their 5- and 8-year-old siblings. A woman who lived with them, 21-year-old Monifa Sanford, facing the same charges. Police say the women believe they were performing an exorcism on the children.
It's shocking. It's disgusting. I can't believe it. I'm still like, this is crazy. It's just crazy.
Those who gathered in the cold amidst the teddy bears and candles could not imagine such a horrible crime. What would drive a woman to take her children's lives, and what the future will be for the children who survived.
You have 2 surviving kids that know that their mother tried to kill them. What more can you say than that?
Okay. This is from CNN Justice. Maryland mom kills 2 of her children during attempted exorcism. A Maryland mother stabbed 2 of her children to death and wounded 2 others while attempting an exorcism, authorities say. Whatever Avery, I'm not going to try to pronounce the first name, 28, was charged Saturday. This would have been in January of 2014. Okay. Was charged Saturday with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, Montgomery County Police said in a statement. A second woman who was briefly hospitalized after the incident was also charged in the 2 deaths. Police believe that she is not related to the family but lived at the same residence in Germantown. Noel Harris, 1, his sister Ziana Harris, 2, suffered fatal stab wounds while their siblings, age 5 and 8, were hospitalized with injuries. What the fuck? You know, this is one of those what the fuck.
Yeah, what? And the article lists that the kids were already known to the police and to the Child Protective Services, so they were on the radar for having been, left alone in a car or something like that, according to neighbors.
Yeah, but unfortunately, when you're talking about religion gets a pass because nobody wants to offend the religious. Well, fuck the religious. Yeah. You know, Avery was a known mental health risk. She had already been under observation, but why was nobody watching her? There are other articles on this where these 2 women were part of an exorcism club that went around and tried to exorcise people. And like her pastor's going, well, I didn't know that they were actually trying to exorcise people, but I knew that they were really, really involved in it. Call the psychologists and the people with the nice long sleeve white suits that tie in the back to help these people. What's going on with you?
Or take the kids, you know, even if I didn't want to turn my relatives in, I'd say, oh, you think the little one is possessed by a demon? Let me take them off your hands for a while. It sounds like, you know, things are getting stressful over there. Let me take the kids off your hands.
Well, exactly.
It's awful.
You know, and everybody's going, oh, we knew she had problems. Oh, we knew all this stuff, but she didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it's only because religion is involved. If she had been running around screaming that Bigfoot wanted her to kill her kids, those kids would have been gone in a second.
Yeah.
Here, nope.
Yep. Many, many adults, many systems failed these kids, and that's awful. What is it? 2 of them are dead?
Two out of 4. And this is not an uncommon thing.
No, it's not that
There
rare.
are tons and tons and tons and tons of cases where parents go out and kill their kids because they think Jesus told them to. And everybody saw it coming and didn't do a thing about it.
I remember the one that drowned all of them in the bathtub, one after the other. Oh my God. One after the other. And they were older kids. They were up to like 7 years old or something. Oh my God. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And hers was postpartum depression, and everybody knew she was in trouble. Even the doctor said she shouldn't have had, the last 3 out of the 4 kids. She couldn't handle it. And there she was, a religious nutter, kid after kid after kid.
Yeah, and it's funny that even the people in this case knew it. I mean, according to Avery, she wrote that people are being deceived left and right every day and don't care to realize it. Well, yeah, that describes you. You're being deceived by religion. You're crazy. And you're taking your religious beliefs ridiculously seriously, and everybody's ignoring you because it falls under religion, not because it falls under any other kind of psychiatric episode.
She's crazy, so that explains her. It doesn't explain the rest of the adults who knew these kids were in trouble and did nothing.
Yeah, well, both the women were crazy.
Yeah, there's 2 crazies. Everybody else in the congregation, though, I consider the blood is also on their hands. But
they're equally as crazy. They believe the same crap that she does. They're just not going to act on it.
Yeah, that could be. That makes sense.
I mean, there's a lot of religions out there that believe in all of this stuff, exorcisms and raising people from the dead and all that. They believe it, sort of. I claim to believe it at least. But they're not crazy enough to actually do anything about it. And then you get the crazy people who are going, oh hell, I believe it and I'll do something about it. I got no problem with it. And then everybody acts shocked. No, you people have these stupid beliefs to begin with. Those beliefs are what informed the actions of these women. I bet you none of them are going to turn around and go, well, we should stop believing in exorcism because it's fucking stupid. Nope. They're going to go on week after week after week preaching about exorcism from the pulpit.
Or they may say she was, these 2 ladies were informed by the devil. I mean, it may just deepen their beliefs, strengthen their beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they didn't do it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, you know what these people need to do is they need to call that boy band from last week to come out and bring those kids back to life.
Well, what was that? They had some silly name for bringing the people back to life. It was funny. I can't remember it. Oh, it was cute. It was something catchy. It was like, oh, that's clever.
It was like the Dead Raisers Club or something. And
yeah, I was like, oh, that's clever.
Yeah, the picture they had, we put it on last week's show notes, but the picture they had of them, it looks just like a boy band. They break out in song and bring you back from the dead.
I don't even believe in that, but I'd be like, well, give it a go. I want to see what you're going to do. Give it a go.
Yeah, well, they won't do it because it'll make them look silly.
Well, I just don't want any boy band hanging around me while I'm dead. I mean,
you're irresistible live, Mike. I can't imagine you as a corpse. Like, you'd be irresistible.
Yeah.
Well, I have a little bit of a fear of, being abused by
necrophilia. Necrophiliacs.
Yeah. That was part of the story. Yeah.
That's great.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to the next story.
Now, do they do any interviews with scientists themselves during this whole thing? And do they ever give a creationist any time?
Well, no, the creationists aren't even on the radar screen for them. They wouldn't even consider us plausible at all. I don't recall having seen any interviews with people. That may yet come, but it's based upon the narration from the host and then various types of little video clips of various things, cartoons and things like that.
Boy, but when you have so many scientists who simply do not accept Darwinian evolution, seems to me that might be something to throw in there. Sometimes, some scientists say this, others disagree and think this, but that's not even allowed.
No, and not even the recognition that abiogenesis, belief in that, is contrary to good science. I was struck in the first episode where he talked about science, how that all ideas are discussed. Everything's up for discussions, all on the table, and I thought to myself, no, consideration of special creation is definitely not open for discussion, it would seem.
Boy, how interesting.
Creationists don't understand the real world once again. They are demanding that the new Cosmos series gives them free airtime for the sake of balance. Balance in what, you ask? Their delusions. Danny Faulkner of Answers in Genesis asked if Cosmos will ever give creationism any equal time. He complains that creationists aren't even on the radar screen for theism. They wouldn't even consider us plausible at all. Well, maybe that's because you're not.
Okay, here we go. Okay, people, you gotta remember this. Cosmos is a science show. The word science, that's the important word here. Science. Cosmos is a science show. Creationism is religion. The operative word here is religion. Creation, religion. Cosmos, science. Never should the two meet.
Absolutely.
They have nothing to do with each other. It's science, bitches.
That's right. As one grows, one retreats. I mean, that's exactly it. Neil deGrasse Tyson mentions that. It's true. Like God of the gaps. That's right. Ever shrinking God.
It's like you don't go tell NASA they have to give equal time to flat earthers. It doesn't work that way. You gotta earn your equal time. You actually have to be equal.
Yeah, come with your evidence. Come with your science.
Yeah. And it's not like these guys are broke. I mean, they could build art parks and amusement parks. I mean, come on. They've got money coming out their ass. All they gotta do is say, tell their parishioners and say, God's gonna call me home unless I can get a show on to combat Cosmos. And I bet you they can get enough money that they can get a show on a network news or network television program if they wanted to.
Well, hell, Cosmos is on Fox. They shouldn't have that much of a problem getting on Fox.
Yeah. So it's like, put out your own show. Put your own version of Cosmos. I don't know what you'd call it, but what would you call it? I don't know.
Bronze Age bullshit hour of power?
There we go. The Bronze Age bullshit hour, yeah.
Well, don't they already have that? They've already got entire networks of that. That's the subtitle. Yeah, the subtitle for the 700 Club. And it's funny that they're always calling for equal time when they're never willing to provide any equal time of their own.
Never.
They don't want science in the pulpit. They don't want people. Pat Robertson doesn't have to give equal time to Hindus or whatever. If anybody suggested that, they'd scream.
Yeah,
but they sure want equal time for themselves.
When does Pat Robertson have on the representatives from PFLAG to talk about parents and friends of lesbians and gays? Oh, that never happens.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, Danny Faulkner said, consideration of special creation is definitely not open for discussion, it would seem. Oh, yes, it is. We just saw it open for discussion between Bill Nye and Ken Ham. And Ken Ham got proven to be an idiot.
Yeah, he got shown. Yep.
This thing gets discussed all the time. Every time creationism goes into the classroom and gets thrown out in the courts, there's a discussion. Creationism never wins. These people don't want discussion. These people want to be able to preach.
They want dominance. They want absolute. They don't want fair time. They want absolute 100% dominance.
How do we fix it? Oh, wait, we don't. Yeah, that's right. We can't make people intelligent or rational.
Only God can do that, but he doesn't exist, so we're pretty much screwed.
Well, they're pretty much screwed because they're losing every time they go to court.
Yeah.
It's funny. Every episode of Cosmos, there's more and more and more evolution. They got to be pissing themselves silly.
Yeah, especially when I think it's when I saw in the last one, there was a lot of. It was the old thought. I'll give some credit. People were thinking and they were trying to come up with ideas, and creation probably worked in the Bronze Age.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't Neil deGrasse Tyson saying this. He's got Newton and, because last week was, Newton and, Haley and Locke and, they were talking and how basically how, the part I really sat and watched, how, Newton created, or came up with the solution to why planets move in ellipses. And he had, and today we got and that's how we got our today's calculus is based on that exercise. But, and a lot of the stuff, the stuff I've seen, I've only caught bits and pieces of it when I can. It's like, yeah, this is the way we thought, in this age. And then here's the evidence. Literally, he is giving us the evidence. This is how we figured things out. And this is why we think this today. Not that it was, I think creationism is getting as much equal time as it deserves. Very little.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Newton came up with all of that, and he was a believer, and he believed in all kinds of nonsense, and he was still able to come up with things like calculus. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's what happens when you actually give a damn about reality. Unfortunately, when you just let the church take over, you get people like Giordano Bruno who gets killed by the church for doing things that they don't like.
Yeah, that's the guy's name I couldn't think of. I was thinking, who was Neil Tyson talking about being persecuted? That was him. Yep. Sad, actually.
There's lots of people who've been persecuted and killed by the church. Lots of scientists over the years who've been just taken out and beheaded and burned and all the other fun things that the church comes up with. And it's not because they're wrong. It's because the church just doesn't want to move on with reality. They don't want to, they want the world to stay in one place. They don't want anybody to learn anything new that might come into conflict with their beliefs, which, let's face it, reality comes into conflict with every belief they've got.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 35. Didn't Galileo get his apology sometime in my lifetime? Didn't that happen since 1978? Sometime? Uh-huh. Oh my God. In my lifetime, he just now got his apology. Yeah, fat lot of good that does.
We've talked about this in the past. It doesn't do anybody any good to apologize to somebody who's dead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you really gave a crap about it, you should have actually done something about it when he was around.
Uh-huh.
But that means not persecuting him in the first place.
Sure. Didn't he die under house arrest?
Yep.
Yeah, nice. Well done.
He would have been executed. He was around at the same time as Bruno. The only reason he wasn't executed was because he was willing to give up his beliefs.
Yeah,
publicly recant his beliefs. If he hadn't, he'd have been burning on the next pyre over.
What a nightmare.
Yep.
How many great
minds. It doesn't change.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't change.
No, it doesn't. Look at Craig Venter. Look at how much venom people have against him. And he's an amazing, like, modern version of that. Like, here's a scientist and he can create life in a lab and that's amazing. But my God, he gets death threats.
Yeah. And if, you know, like we were talking before, where Christianity's been neutered by secular society, if we didn't have secular society, Venter would be out there burning right now.
And probably even Francis Collins. Yeah, he loves Jesus, but I'm sure his work has pissed people off right and left.
Absolutely. I'm sure he would recant, though. I have a feeling.
He's such a nice guy. I have a hard time talking against him. I want to hug him.
I don't. I mean, yeah, in his science, and this is something that we go back and we talk about a lot, but people will sit down and go, wow, look at this really, really intelligent person who is a Christian, which must prove that Christianity is intelligent. No, it just means that in spite of his ridiculous religious beliefs, he's actually managed to maintain a scientific background and act in his science scientifically. But when you look at religion, you know, he went out in the forest and he said, oh, look, here's a waterfall that was frozen in 3 parts. Therefore God. That's not rational. You can't get from here to there rationally.
That's right.
You know, people are really good at compartmentalizing their bullshit. And he's a prime example of somebody who has basically taken one part of his life and thrown all the science and reason and logic and everything else he uses everywhere else completely out of that section and chained it up so that none of it can get back in. He should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for him. I am. Because he should be a better person than that.
He's definitely capable of better, that's for sure. I mean, mapping the human genome and all.
Well, he proved he was capable of better before he became a Christian. You know, he started off as an atheist.
Yeah, raised by atheists, that's right.
And some weird crap must have happened to him where all of a sudden, this one section of his life, he just went crazy. Okay, he's a partial nutbag. I don't know. But there's gotta be something wrong with him that he's going to basically throw away reason and embrace emotion just because he wants to be emotional. I don't know. I've never heard him really explain it. He just kind of bypasses all of it and waves his hands a lot and I don't know. It's hard to talk about people like that because they just don't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and because he comes across as such a pleasant person, I'm a sucker for likability. He just seems like a very sweet person, and I think, wow, how could you have this kind of cognitive dissonance? How can that exist in one brilliant head?
I have no idea.
I've often heard that intelligence, though, can just be, you know, a way that people are very good at rationalizing their silly beliefs, and that intelligence can be sort of misused in that way.
Yeah, that's possible. You know, there's a lot of people out there who are really, really intelligent and who believe some really, really stupid things. And it's not limited to religion.
Oh, no.
There's a lot of people out there who are out in Mike's realm, you know, conspiracy theorists who are probably genius level intellects, but they believe some things that are just not defensible.
Well, even Steve Jobs, he went for alternative therapy. Here he is with money and access to all the best medical science can give, and he gave the first shot to woo and nonsense, and it killed him eventually.
Yep.
Awful.
Well, it is what it is, I guess. And that brings us right back around to how do we fix these problems and how do we fix these people? There's gotta be a way, but it's not education. You know, because we're looking at people who are very, very educated, who know better. They ought to know better.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
He's too smart not to be that stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Francis Collins, he has to know better. He does know better. He's shown that he knows better, but he still does the stupid stuff.
Yes, and those are modern examples. I think of someone like Newton. I think, well, he was just a guy of his time. If he was born now, he'd be among the atheists. He'd be like a Christopher Hitchens type or a Craig Venter, I have no doubt.
I'm not sure.
But he was a person of his time, so alchemy didn't seem like it was too outrageous, and he was experimenting. He was a seeker, and I think, yeah, if he would have been born in 1980, we would be having a different story of Newton.
Yeah, maybe.
Such a brilliant mind. I mean, he saw through all of the bullshit and still came up with all that brilliant stuff, even with all the nonsense going on in his life and in his head. I'm thinking, clear, if he were post-Reformation and in the modern age, like, that would have done a lot to get rid of the woo.
Yeah. But there's an awful lot of people back then who, I mean, they were fundamentalist Christians or whatever, and, you know, they took wonderful science careers and threw it all away and went hog shit, you know, religion, delusion crazy. It's just sad to watch these people who could have done something really worthwhile with their lives beyond what they did, but no, they'd rather sit around and believe in imaginary friends in the sky and all this other nonsense. Mike, jump in.
I don't think I can add much to that. I mean, definitely. I don't know.
Hey, I have a question about your podcast though, Mike.
Okay.
All right. You gotta be already flooded with stuff about this missing airliner, this missing whatever it is, Malaysia flight 370 or whatever. I bet you are awash in conspiracy theories about what happened to it. Am I right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yes! I knew it. I said, as soon as I heard that thing disappeared, I said, oh, Mike is in business. The crazies are gonna come out of the woodwork with what happened to it. What are they saying?
Oh, everything.
Give us a preview. I can't wait.
Oh, going off topic again.
Oh, that's what we do. Plus you gotta plug at my show, your show, you know.
Yeah, right. I've already plugged a few shows. No, I've heard everything from, there's the, Bermuda Triangle. I've heard black holes.
Black holes? You mean the outer space thing that is far, far away from where that thing could possibly be? Okay.
A mini black hole appears and sucks the airplane in.
Oh, yes!
Oh God, there's the standard stuff. It's,
the government missile thing. Did we shoot it down, did they say? Or drones or something?
That the pilot flew it to a military base. The little island. It's in the middle of the, it's in the middle of the, Indian Ocean. Diego Garcia. It's basically the whole island's a U.S. military base. They actually, it's where the B-52s that were would bomb Iraq during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. That's where they were based out of. I'm trying to think. It was also it's like a little rock outcropping and then all there is a base on there, kind of like Midway Island. It's no one can get to unless you're military. So is
it big enough where you could land a plane that size? It's huge, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I knew the crazies would not disappoint. As soon as I heard it, I was like, I can't wait to see what Mike's crowd says about this.
Yeah, I've heard a story about the plane was flown there. It was flown there to get some Chinese technology, U.S. technology that was being stolen, taken to China, Chinese stealing U.S. technology. The idea is right as they landed, they gassed everybody in the plane, so they're all dead and whatever. You know, it's just the whole range.
Yes,
stuff.
Okay. I just needed a preview. I can't wait to hear the full-blown show about it.
Well, have you gotten the new one where I guess there was a new semiconductor design and 3 out of the 4 people who had rights to that design were on the plane?
I didn't.
And so now they're pushing that the last guy remaining, who's like an American billionaire, had the plane destroyed just so he could have control of the design.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I'll send you that one.
That's great.
Again, it's the technology. I think that was kind of part of the technology thing. Probably another iteration of, this whatever technology that was on that plane or someone carrying that technology on that plane. And of course the news doesn't help every day. I think 2 weeks now? That's all I hear on even the morning, local news. You know, they're still looking for the plane. They think it's in the Indian Ocean. They think it's here. They think now they got satellites. I mean, man.
Didn't it take them 2 years to find that French plane?
Yeah, and they had the technology to track it.
Mm-hmm. They found the floating stuff first in the first few days.
Well, they
and
found it.
2
It
years.
took them 2 years to salvage it.
Yeah.
Because it was at the bottom of the ocean. This plane, they didn't decide to put that technology on it. That would have cost them like $10 a flight. So, now they have no clue where it's going.
Well, awesome. I'm geeked, Mike. Can't wait to hear.
That'll probably have to be 2 weeks away. I'm doing a UN conspiracy this time around. So.
Yeah,
right.
looking
They'll
forward.
Still be talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, and looking forward to it.
All right, Mike, why don't you go ahead and do your other exorcism story? What is it with you and exorcisms this week?
Well, the Irreverent Skeptics did a whole show on exorcism, so I thought I thought that was a pretty good, subject to talk about here too, cause, it's, what the fuck, type stories. Here we got, Italian priests, the interest in exorcisms increasing, that there's a big uptick in, people wanting exorcisms, priests getting trained to do exorcisms. And the Catholic Church seems to be embracing this. So I'm wondering what the hell's going on here. What is this? It's kind of anecdotal, but it seems like an awful lot of exorcism stories have been popping up lately.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times been really sad ones with consequences.
Yeah, like the last story we just did,
Right.
2 kids die, and, usually the only time we hear about these exorcism stories is that someone dies in it, from whatever, being smothered. I think some have been, stabbed, thrown from buildings, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Forced to drink salt water. That was one recently we covered in Irreverent Skeptics, or they covered on Cognitive Dissonance, I think. One of them. Yeah, forced to drink salt water. It's like, who would think that's a good idea? Everyone knows you can't drink salt water. Everyone knows that.
Well, they don't care. That's the problem.
Oh, awful.
They think magic is going to solve all the problems.
Yeah, it's like,
and that, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, back when they were trying to figure out who's a witch, so they throw rocks on them and dump them into the water, and if she drowns, then she was a witch. If she doesn't drown or whatever, the whole thing was that she's going to die anyhow, because if she dies, if you put them in the water, she wasn't a witch. Okay. It's like,
nice.
It's like that type of mentality, it's like
terrifying.
Yeah.
What year is it though? We're in 2014. I keep thinking we're in 2014.
Yeah, you'd like to think so.
Oh God.
And we talk a lot about religion falling apart around here. All the people who are walking away from religion, getting out of the churches, all the churches going out of business and all this other stuff. And the crazies are taking over the pulpits. So maybe that does explain a little bit more about this, where most of the moderate Christians have already left. They've already walked away from religion and realized that they don't need religion to be socially acceptable anymore. So it's really only, the mentally disturbed and the delusional who stick around in the churches, and the churches are only too happy to go, hey, you got more money to give us? We'll play your game. We don't care.
Yeah, that or maybe just a way of becoming, the Catholic Church trying to find a way to be relevant, in the today, because, just this idea that, hey, we'll handle all your spiritual needs, come here, we can give you exorcisms, get you this, we'll
raise you from the dead.
Raise you from the dead, or, whatever you need, anything spiritual, come on in.
Yeah, but I don't know that any of that's really relevant because none of it's actually true. Let's find one person that the boy band has ever actually risen from the dead. They haven't. In fact, they actively refuse to provide any evidence that they've ever done anything useful.
And if they had, it would be a YouTube channel. They'd have footage of it. They'd be on the news. If they could really do this, there would be nonstop coverage.
Oh yeah. Well, they claim that they've raised like 16 people,
right,
but they will provide no evidence whatsoever for any of it.
They'd be more than happy to provide the shreddest of evidence if they had it.
Yeah. Same thing with the Catholics. Exorcisms, provide evidence that you've ever exorcised one demon. Just one.
My biggest bone with the whole exorcism thing is that it cockblocks legitimate treatment. It wouldn't matter to me if what people do. I don't really care that much, but it's not inert. It's going to cockblock someone going for legitimate medical care. And that's terrifying to me. And it also removes all responsibility to say that you're possessed by a demon. That is terrifying, that combination of things.
Yeah.
But I guess I do believe that the Catholic Church does, before they'll take on an exorcism, they will run the person through psychological analysis, and they'll they'll try to eliminate as much as they can. And, if they determine it is a real, mental illness or whatever, then they won't do the exorcism. They won't do it. But, it's only those really rare cases. But, like with these two ladies who formed their little club to do exorcisms, that's outside any type of, out of any type of, church control. I mean,
it's not sanctioned by the church, but it lends it legitimacy. The fact that the church does them means that it is a phenomenon that exists. It lends it an air of legitimacy just by them pronouncing it and by having training in it, and etc.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And plus the fact that they went and exorcised Mother Teresa before she died, which I think she had other problems.
Did they really?
Yep. Just before she died, they ran her through an exorcism.
Now,
they found out she was a shyster or whatever.
Did she get sainthood, or is she on her way to sainthood? I remember something about that when she first died. They were going to fast track her, and I thought, well, I didn't think Catholics fast tracked anyone. Again, they just now said sorry to Galileo.
I know that she was at least being considered for it. I'm not sure if they ever did it. I don't pay that much attention to the Catholics and their craziness.
Whatever that first couple steps, I know they did that. I don't know if it's beatification or legitimizing her miracles, or they were on their way. I remember that when I was first at college reading about it.
Yeah, well, they wanted to turn, Pope John Paul into a saint too, and I don't think they've done that either, so. It's like, guys, sainthood is stupid. Get over it.
Yeah, I think, what's it? You gotta have 2 people or 3 people just claim, whatever miracle, and then they gotta research it, whatever the deal is, so I don't know what's happening there. Plus,
it's a miracle. I got Jesus on my toast. Yeah. Sainthood.
Saint Cephus.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Jesus toast. Sounds like a brand.
Actually, you can go out now. They've made a toaster that will imprint Jesus on your toast.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'd rather have the Hello Kitty one, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, they have a whole bunch. You can do it with just about anything now. You can do Virgin Mary toast and all the rest of that.
That would be fun just to mess with someone. Like if I knew my mom was Catholic and not say anything and just make her some one piece of Jesus and Mary toast and mix it in with the rest of the toast.
The sad part is they fall for that.
Yeah, my grandma would have gone nuts. I know she would have. She was so devout Catholic. What's it? I bought her this plate of, not Pope John, but I forget whatever one. That was the greatest thing any of her grandkids ever did for her was to get that plate. It's like,
oh, she probably put it in a cabinet and never use it and looked at it like, oh, yeah. Mikey is such a good kid. Look at that. Yeah. Probably showed other people like, look what Mikey got me. Look what Mikey got me. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm picturing my grandma. Yeah.
And, of course I got it back when she passed away. So it's now stuffed away in a cupboard somewhere. I don't know.
And it's sentimental, and she loved it, and you made her happy, and I don't see anything wrong with it.
No.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it had to be religious.
But yeah, if she saw a Jesus toast, she would probably have thought it was a miracle happening to her.
Aw. See, that is not harmless. Messing with the minds of sweet little old ladies. That is not okay, and it's their money that the church defends pedophile priests with. I don't think people realize that. Like, these guys have defense counsel, very expensive defense counsel, entire teams of lawyers. And where does that money come from? Little grandma putting her money in the plate, being a good tither. Yeah.
Every Sunday, she'd be on all the religious holidays, Easter. She would do the Christmas Mass, I forget what some of the others. Cause there's a whole bunch that, from the old days too. I mean, before Vatican II.
Vatican II, where they still cover their heads and they observe all the sweet little traditions. Like, I don't like it that the pedophiles get to hide behind, their lawyers paid for by sweet little ladies and people that tithe. Like, I have a relative that tithes something like $400 a month. $400 a month she tithes. That's like 10% of her income. And it just blows my mind. Like, do you realize what these people are doing with your money? They're shuffling priests from place to place.
These people don't walk out of the church, though. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. If I was part of any organization, and I found out that they were using the money that I was giving them to support and defend pedophiles, I'd be out the door in a second.
Yeah, I agree. Me too. If it were United Way, if it were American Atheists, if it were anything, I would say, yeah, you know what? You people are not who I thought you were. I'm with you, Cephus. Absolutely.
Yeah. What's wrong with these people? Take a drink.
And send your hate mail and hangover letter complaints to complaints@cephus.com. Like, no.
That's all right. I get enough complaints already.
Feedback at Irreverent Skeptics. Thomas at Thomas in the Bible.
Yeah, send all your complaints for this show to Thomas in the Bible and Cognitive Dissonance.
You might want to get a hold of Thomas. I was just hearing him talk on his Atheistically Speaking podcast about wanting to speak to conservative, oriented atheists. And I thought, I know somebody in that category. Only one, but I know him.
Well, two. We're both on the show.
You know what? I never think of Mike that way because he doesn't talk enough on our show, but you're right. That's right. I know two.
There's actually a lot of us, but we don't tend to be vocal.
Right. Well, Atheistically Speaking is interested in speaking to you guys.
Well, maybe we'll talk to him. I don't know. All right. Well, now we've gotten through all of the exorcism news for the week.
Oh, jeez.
Let's do some main event.
This is the main event.
Last week, Mike and I talked about what we disagreed with in the libertarian platform, and apparently Brandi disagreed with some of the things I said, so she's here to set me straight. Since I don't know exactly what she wants to say, I'm going to turn the floor over to her. So hit me with it.
Well, for once, let me just keep it brief. It wasn't so much a disagreement about the libertarian thing as it was a few shows ago when you were talking about the mental health profession and school shooters, and I just felt like you lumped liberals and mental health professionals and mental health treatment all into just one big useless category. And I thought, please, we do the best we can. My background is I have a master in social work, and we mental health professionals, we do the best we can. Psychiatry is not an exact science, but I felt like it got demonized a few shows ago.
Well, as we talked about earlier on in the show, before you were here, I don't lump everybody into any one particular category. I always say that if this doesn't describe you, don't take it personally, because I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people for whom this is actually true. And, if you fall under a particular category or under a particular label, be it liberal, conservative, libertarian, atheist, Christian, whatever, not all Christians have the same beliefs. And so if I sit down and I start talking about Christians who do or who believe in exorcisms, and you come and complain to me going, hey, I'm a Christian that doesn't believe in exorcisms. Well, dude, I wasn't talking about you.
Okay.
Stop complaining.
All right. Fair enough.
So, I don't mean to lump everybody in on anything. I don't talk generally in general terms, and every 2 or 3 shows at least I do sit down and explain this, that if I'm not talking about you, if I'm not describing your beliefs or your positions or anything else, don't take it personally. I'm not talking about you.
Right.
Go off and deal with the people who are actually causing these problems, because usually these are people who are making you and your side and your beliefs look bad because they're holding on to those beliefs and pretending that they represent the whole. We stay with the Christian thing with the exorcisms. All these people are going, well, yeah, this is what Christianity is. You get exorcisms and you do all this stuff and you believe the stupid crap. And it makes people look really, really bad. Or you talk about atheism plus with atheism. They make atheists look really, really bad. Like that guy in Chicago that Mike was talking about earlier. He makes us look really bad. We should not go after people who are talking about that person negatively. We should go after that person and say, dude, knock it the fuck off.
Yeah, and I can also be critical on people in my profession. For instance, those kids, like I said, those kids, that 2 of them died out of the 4 in that family, those were known to social workers. Those were known to people I consider of my ilk, and that is the most disturbing part of that story for me. Like, there's a crazy person, fine. There's someone who believes in exorcisms, fine. There's a congregation even. Okay, I can forgive them. But the fact that the cops and the social workers knew this family and those kids are dead, I feel like there's blood on their hands. And I do. I take that very personally. I wish I had access to the MSWs who let these kids fall through the cracks like that.
Yeah, but unfortunately in those situations, it's the religion that's why it fell through the cracks. Because I've found so many people in the mental health profession who absolutely refuse. As soon as religion comes up, they run away and hide.
Yeah,
they don't
very well
dare challenge anybody who says this is my religious belief.
That could be, and it's probably in our lost audio. What I was telling you before was that's why generally the social workers stay away from the religious belief and try not to mention that. It's more like we showed up and your kid was locked in a car, or we showed up and you were doing this exorcism and your kid has bruises and your kid's been starved. We mostly have to stick to evidence-based accusations and wait till there's actually been a harm, which is sad, but we are not to go after ideas.
Yeah, but unfortunately, ideas are important.
Oh, they are. They're just nothing we can do anything about. We don't want to have thought crime in this country. So we have to wait till you almost starve your kid to death before we can do anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand that, but it's something we go back to a lot, and that's that ideas inform actions. You know, when you have really bad ideas, you are going to perform actions that are negative. I had a discussion recently with somebody on racism, and he was saying that, you know, you can't actually criticize anybody for being a racist. Well, I'm saying, okay, you know, understandably, we can't change their mind. We can't forcibly make what goes on inside their heads change.
Right.
But people who are like that, or you talk about, you know, fundamentalist Christians, because that's more along the purview of the show, you know, they have these beliefs, but they tend to vote against gay marriage. They tend to vote to put religion in public schools. They tend to vote for politicians who are going to push religion into the society. Their ideas are what causes this. It's not just some magic disconnect between this crap that you believe and this crap that you do. They're attached, and you have to be able to address that.
It's just it's much harder to address that, you know, to change ideas than it is to address behavior. So that's really where we draw the line. It's like, think what you want, even though I agree with you, it informs action. It is not inert, but we can only go after behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with it. I just wish that there was some other way we could go at it. You know, and then getting back to the whole drugs and school shootings and other types of shootings in the U.S., the fact is that there is a really strong correlation between people who are on these anti-anxiety, antidepressants, anti-ADHD drugs and the people who are out there picking up guns and shooting people. And we know that these drugs cause people, at least certain people, to have these kind of psychotic breaks. But in this country, we have really started to push, and it's not just psychiatric, but you've got teachers who want all the ADHD kids to be drugged to shit so that they don't have to deal with them. You got parents who want their kids to be drugged to shit because they don't want to deal with the behaviors. And then when these kids do something crazy, nobody wants to talk about the fact that drugging these kids is what actually made them go crazy. More than likely. We don't actually have proof in that, but it seems to line up pretty damn close.
I'm just hesitant to draw the causal arrow because I'm afraid it discourages people from going for help because God only knows what would happen, or, you know, we don't know what would happen if these people went untreated. Then you have more of what happened with this exorcism situation. That's an untreated psychosis right there, for sure.
Well, there's a difference between being untreated and being just treated with, hey, you walk into a psychiatrist's office and they just say, hey, you're having these problems. Here, we're going to put you on Zoloft, or we're going to put you on whatever.
So you would be happy with it. We said everyone just magically had appropriate levels of treatment and medication. You'd be happy with that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're not anti-psych just as a blanket statement.
No.
Okay, good.
No.
Okay, good.
I am anti a one-size-fits-all solution, which is exactly what we have in this country right now. Plus the fact that you have an awful lot of doctors out there who are being pressured by the pharmaceutical companies to push their drugs because they want to make all kinds of money. So they're actually rewarding doctors, and this isn't just psychiatric drugs, this is all kinds of drugs.
Absolutely.
They're out there rewarding doctors for putting as many patients as possible on these drugs.
Right, yeah, I'm anti-conflict of interest as a business model. I agree. Right.
You know, so we just keep going through this, and I've got a lot of links on the website for this week that shows that there's just a huge correlation between these drugs and these shootings. And we do see a massive increase in cases starting in the late 80s, early 90s when these drugs came on the market. Zoloft came on the market in 91, and you immediately see this big jump where people are out there shooting and stabbing and, you know, beating people with bricks and all this other stuff. It's really, really ridiculous. But nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to talk about it.
It seems like there's not a middle of the road voice. It either seems like there's the way anti-psychiatry, you know, Scientology kind of take on it, or there's the profession which has, you know, has a dog in the fight. It's very rare to find a middle of the road, like, I just want appropriate treatment. You know, you don't hear that very much in the media.
Yeah. Well, you've got, like, after Sandy Hook, everybody was out there going, we have to ban guns, ban guns, ban guns, ban guns. Well, Sandy Good, it had nothing to do with guns.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It had to do with a mentally ill person who was going to go out and do something whether we wanted it to or not. And if they didn't have guns, they'd go out there with knives or bricks or, baseball bats or whatever. And nobody's out there screaming to get rid of knives, especially after we talked about that Chinese stabbing a couple of weeks ago. Nobody's talking about banning knives.
Right.
Why not?
Fertilizer bombs, Oklahoma City, ricin powder, the nerve gas, sarin nerve gas that the Japanese used on the subway train. I mean, yeah, there's just an endless supply of things that you can do ill with. It's true.
Yeah, but nobody wants to talk about that. Just like nobody wants to talk about religion. The sarin gas attack would not have happened without that religious cult.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, magical thinking is not inert. Illogical thinking is not inert. Absolutely not.
Yeah. And there's got to be something that we can do about this, because otherwise it's just going to continue, because we're not slowing down how many drugs we're pumping into the system of our people.
Right.
But what do you do?
Some people are over medicated. Other people don't have access. Yeah, there isn't a nice solution, nice neat solution that's available to everybody.
Yeah, but they're just going to continue to blame the guns and the knives and all the rest of that, instead of saying, hey, we've got an actual issue here that we actually have to find a solution for. How do we find the solution?
Right.
Nobody's willing to talk about it.
And it doesn't help that the NRA comes out and says crazy things after these events. Like, the bodies are barely cold and the NRA is saying insensitive, stupid things. Like, NRA didn't always used to be a wingnut organization. When I was a kid, it was something like my uncles, had the bumper stickers and we're proud to be NRA. And now I feel like, yeah, we're not so much proud about that. They may be lifelong members, but you don't see the hats and the bumper stickers anymore because it's shameful.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, and I think the reason for that is that we've actually gone from a country that's more moderate to one that's more extreme.
Polarized, yeah.
So you've got the liberals on the one side, and they are the far, far, far left liberals, and then you've got the neocons on the other side. I will not call them conservatives because they're not. On the other side, but they're far, far, far right, and there's nobody who's interested in people in the middle. The vast majority of people in the country are probably in the middle ground.
Yeah.
But the parties are so busy talking to the extremists that there's no point to it anymore.
Yeah, it's very polarizing. I think you're right. That has been a recent shift in recent decades.
Yeah, it's been since the late 60s, early 70s.
And I remember the 80s when the religious right came about, and all of a sudden it was like, there were famous people on TV talking about Jesus, and those people are friends with the president. I remember that as a kid, like, oh my God, President Reagan is sitting with these people on a regular basis, and George W. Bush gets a phone call from Saddleback Church leader, what's his name, every week. Like, oh my God, really?
Yeah. Mike, say something.
Well, I don't know, you guys are doing great without Cause my whole, cause like my whole thing with mental health, all that kind of stuff, I kind of see this, that we don't have a mental health system, or it's so broken. It doesn't seem to be working properly. Like most homeless have mental health issues, these kids shooting. And I was going through that the lists you're going to post, and, I'm looking at some of them, and they're, there's a few red flags in it for me from a conspiracy side, but, I want to set that aside. But looking at, at some of the, these events, it seems like, either they were either over medicated or under medicated, maybe off their meds, or never were in the system. It seems like it's not so much, I don't think it's the drugs that's the problem. I don't think it's really the profession. It's like, things are just so broken in this country. It's almost like we don't want to pay for, to get these people help. If, our vets are coming back from Afghanistan and they're finding themselves on the streets, unable to keep jobs, but they can't get any help because for whatever reason, the government they've decided, that they're not, whatever their psychiatrists are saying, oh no, there's nothing wrong with these guys. It may be a little post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, that he'll be fine. He doesn't even need drugs. Put him on the street. And then he disappears because he can't keep a house, can't keep a job for some reason. And he's out on the street. And he disappears. And on top of it then, some of these they're committing crimes and they're ending up instead of going into mental hospitals or getting regular care, they're going into the jails to get their mental health care. It would seem to me that there's something broken. I don't know if it's insurance that's not going to pay for some of these treatments, or they can't get into a doctor for any length of time, or, again, this, psychiatry, that's outside of my expertise here, but it does sound like, I'm hearing stuff like, people needing rehab and they gotta go through 21 days of rehab, but the insurance will only pay 14. So they gotta get kicked out after 14 days. They're put on the street and, they're back on their drugs, or whatever, alcohol, whatever they're on. It just seems like there's that's what I think is really the problem. We don't want to address the mental health issues, but we've kind of found surrogates to deal with it. Our prison systems pretty much the prison system is now really, those are our mental institutions.
And there's no treatment in there, in those systems. Not really. At maximum, you'll get maybe sedated or maybe temporary crisis management, but they don't get ongoing care, and they certainly don't get therapy. Nothing is fixed. And then when they're set loose, they're set loose.
Yeah. But you go back to like the 70s when everybody shut down, the institutions, and a lot of that was from, and I hate to be doing the whole liberal thing, but there's an awful lot of people out there, patient advocate groups and all the rest of that, who wanted these people on the streets. They did not want them being restricted to an institution.
Right. They
looked down on that.
That's right.
And said, this is a horrible, awful thing. We should never have to do this. So let's throw these people on the streets who can't function in the real world.
Yeah, you're right. Mike can attest to it too. I mean, Detroit, you'll see people in the freezing cold and homeless and talking to themselves, and you realize these were people that were part of that deinstitutionalized movement, which is a nice way of saying the Republican governor threw everybody out in the middle of winter. But yeah, I know who was advocating for that. And again, like, shame on you, MSWs.
Yeah.
Like, shame on you, broken social work system in Michigan, for ousting these people with no aftercare plan, with no nothing. Just, they had lived in these places, some of them their whole lives, and been warehoused there, and then were just put out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And nobody's willing to talk about reinstituting that for people who really need it.
It's almost impossible to get that kind of commitment now. Even if you have money, even if you're the son of a governor or whatever, it's really not an option. Long-term care.
And going back to what Mike was saying about the drugs, I unfortunately, I do have to disagree with you that it's not the drugs. Cause we know that like the SSRIs like Zoloft and Paxil and that kind of stuff, they do cause violent outbreaks. We know that the SNRIs like Effexor and Cymbalta, they absolutely do cause paranoia. And like the drugs that are used for ADHD, in 21% of people taking them, they cause severe mood swings.
But that's, of course, you gotta be able to have a doctor to say, hey, wait a minute, we gotta change your dose. We gotta change something here.
Right, you have to be having access to care, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, I agree, but most of the people who are doing these shootings had access to care. They were on these prescription drugs.
So again,
they had them prescribed by somebody.
Right.
And they still went out and went crazy.
Yeah, again, I'm gonna lean on the fact that either the doctor didn't recognize the problem, that's quite possible, or, if you, John Wayne Gacy. I mean, that guy, now there's a book called The Man in the Clown Suit. It's an excellent book if you're into serial murderers and stuff like that. And I remember from reading that book, Gacy was caught in Iowa, diddling boys.
Yeah.
And, he got caught, he was arrested, he was found, guilty by reason of insanity. He, was put in a mental institution. And it would have been until a doctor would release him. I mean, when the doctor determines that he was sane to leave, either that or he'd be stuck there all his life. He managed to, come together and say, told him what the doctor wanted to say. The doctor signed off, put him back on the street. He ends up in Chicago and, well, I don't know I forget the numbers now, 30 boys were murdered by this guy. And then eventually he got caught again. It's like he still had his problem. He still had his issues, but he was able to hide it. So if the doctor doesn't recognize the problem or misdiagnoses the problem or whatever and doesn't do I don't want to rest it all on the drugs, but, because You know, the doctor could say, well, take a half dose or, you know, whatever. There's all the adjustments that could be done. And if that patient doesn't even show up, he shows up, he gets the pills, he thinks he's fine for the rest of his life. He doesn't have to see a doctor again. So he stays on that pill, you know, or misses the appointment. Whatever, you know, there could be anything else. Because you're right, there's side effects to these pills. I mean, any drug has a side effect. That's why you have to see a doctor. I mean, that's why you have to get a prescription. You have to see a doctor because the doctor's going to check. I mean, with the diabetes, I think my ma has to go through these various tests so that they can see that her pills are doing all right. If, you know, cause,
just watch any commercial on TV. You know, this thing that does this very minor thing, warning, might kill you, might have your head fall off. You know, side effects include your arms, you know, your eyeballs turn inside out.
I read one that said, may cause facial freezing. I laughed so hard. Like your face is going to freeze in one position. Or it said, do not keep away from genitals, may harm jewelry. Yeah, I think you're right, Mike. There's so many moving parts. It's hard to nail it on one thing. It's not one thing.
Yeah, and there isn't one problem, but you got to be able to address all the problems. And so far, they don't really want to address any of the problems. They just want to address the symptoms.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking the system in general. The doctors, the people. You know, they may not be competent, or I think it's more funding. I mean, you know, I think it's probably the money that is available and the resources that they can. I think that's probably more of the problem because, you know, if you're stuck, you're in, you know, you have an issue. You've come back from Afghanistan. You've got post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, there's probably the right way of taking care of that, you know, dealing with the physical, the mental, whatever. And you got to keep up with it. And if all of a sudden someone decides, well, we're going to cut funding for this program, you know, or we're going to take away this support, or they're going to, whatever they do, that could screw up a whole lot more than just, you know, being on the pills or whatever. And I think it's really important because my belief, and as a conservative, I think we should be pumping more money into mental health because then we don't have to send them to prison. I don't know what the costs are, but I think it's probably cheaper and probably fewer people dying if we can get the help right away, get them on a steady whatever they need.
Get them stabilized. Yeah, the first thing is, as far as people coming back from the war, they don't even get seen for something like 2 years. So it's not even a matter of wrong pills. It's a matter of access. It's a matter of the VA doesn't see them for a year and a half or 2 years, and then they get a determination in the mail. And if it's the wrong kind of determination, they have to appeal. Yeah. They have no access that they were guaranteed as part of their benefits package. I mean, we owe them better than that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the other problem is, and this is unfortunately something that's going on in society, is that so many people think that if you're even the slightest bit depressed, you have to get on a pill. Well, you know, people have lasted for thousands of years being depressed. I'm sorry. You know, you can't be happy every second of every day. And the idea that we're just going to stick you on this pill, which may have worse side effects than what you actually were going through, some people need to understand that there is no just normal point here, and anybody who falls outside that point needs to be drugged to bring them into this normal point.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, if you're seriously depressed, we can worry about you. If you just don't feel good when you wake up in the morning, you don't need to pop a ton of pills so you feel better about yourself. That's another problem, and it's a social problem.
Yeah. That I can agree with, because I mean, you know, we want everything in a pill. I mean, we want our diet, you know, we feel overweight. I want a pill to fix that. I won't, you know, I feel a little depressed.
No, if you feel overweight, get off your ass and go work out.
Right.
Shut up. Right. Stop eating so much and go do something.
Right. But you know, I feel happy, I want a pill. I feel sad, I want a pill. You know, my joints hurt, pill. My head hurts, pill. You know, I'm overweight, pill. You know, it's like, you know, what's wrong with jogging? Go to a baseball game. If you enjoy baseball, go to a baseball game. Walk to a baseball game. You used to be able to do that, you know. Heck, going to a baseball game, walking up those stairs, you probably, get all the exercise you need. You know, there is that pill mentality, but yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see people who need the help, whoever's, you know, they're people in crisis, getting the help they need, if they want to push off the pills to what do they call them? What's that? Oh, it's one of those shows like The Wives of Beverly Hills or whatever. If you're gonna if you want to live your life like that and, pop your pills and do your Botox and all that kind of crap, you get what you deserve. But, I think people need, there's people who need, and these are people who will, and they have picked up weapons and killed people, or they've committed crimes. They've broken into homes. They've, everything, burglary, assault, rape, whatever. We need to do stuff, keep them up from doing that, or, there has to be a fix. And I think spending a little bit of money up front in mental health will do a lot more than spending the extra after they've, they killed someone and put them in jail.
Right.
Yeah, right up until people go, oh, well, it's so unfair that they're actually being treated as if there's anything wrong with them. I can't tell you how many times I heard that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need to stigmatize people. We don't need to stigmatize people in order to assess them. Some people
need to be stigmatized. The people who are really out of their bloody minds, who need to be institutionalized, put away forever, and are going to be violent, those people need to be stigmatized.
Okay, there may be interventions that have to happen. I just mean we as a society. I don't have to look down on them like, oh, they're crazy and therefore worthless. No, this is somebody who needs help better, and they can only be maintained in this certain environment with structure. Okay.
Yeah, but there are some people out there who say, well, no, if you even say that they need help, then you're stigmatizing them, and therefore we can't help anybody because we might make them feel bad about themselves.
The extremes of my ilk, the extremes of my ilk can shush. They are mistaken. Like many of the extremes, that's too far. That's too far. Yeah. That is not helpful to anyone. Leaving them babbling and freezing on the Detroit streets is not an answer, and putting them in jail is not an answer.
Nope. Helping them is an answer so that they don't have to be in jail or babbling on the street, so that it can actually be useful members of society.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many of my clients...
We don't value that anymore.
My clients had frostbite, Cephus. I had many clients who had slept drunk under a Detroit overpass and had lost toes. That is a common thing. That does not need to happen.
No, it doesn't.
Not in our society.
But we need to convince people that we actually have to handle these problems correctly and actually go after the real causes and not just these made-up symptoms that make people feel good about themselves and go after their pre-existing wishes and desires. We want to get rid of guns. Well, we're okay, so we're just going to find this thing where somebody used a gun and we're going to use that as ammunition, so to speak, against guns, so we can fight guns. And it's like, guys, that's not what's causing these problems. You need to stop with your crusades, and you need to just deal with the issues as they come up and not just, make up these links that don't really exist.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we have anything else to do this week?
Nope. We did it twice. We did a good job.
That works. All right. Well, that was all we had for this week. I want to thank Brandi Mattison for coming on this week. And remember,
thank you.
You're welcome. Twice. If you hear something that pisses you off or that you disagree with, let us know. Maybe we'll have you on the show to defend your position. You can get a hold of us through email, Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and our very own website where you can leave comments on each and every episode. And if you're not willing to leave a comment, shut up. We don't want to hear from you. I'm sorry. That's cool, but it's true.
A real comment, not this, you're a fucking idiot or you're a geek or whatever, A nice comment.
If you can't defend your position, screw you. You got nothing. I don't want to hear from you. Anyway, listen in on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. Don't keep it to yourself. Reach out and let us know. And until next week, take care and keep thinking. Somebody on this religion-soaked planet needs to. You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephus and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/The B-Spot Report. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are at our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week with another fun and fact-filled episode. Please tune in again.